Hi folks, thanks for joining us. So today we are bringing you information about the real estate management industry's leading ERP system, JD Edwards, and showcasing how it facilitates the automation, optimization and transformation of your operations. Now, you might have noticed this is actually the first time that we've used Microsoft Teams to run a webinar. There's a handful of differences that we've discovered to some of the other main platforms. Now, I hope this won't impact your overall ability to enjoy yourselves, but please excuse myself or our presenters if we have any hiccups, such as having to manually admit people to they join. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Ndevr, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about us. We've been implementing, upgrading and integrating JD Edwards with pretty much everything since about 1998. We've got the largest, most experienced team of JDE consultants in the Australian-New Zealand region. Our team are highly regarded not just for their exceptional level of skill, but also their integrity. We provide the full range of JD Edwards services, from managed services, support and training, to JD Edwards Code Currency for 9.2 or Release 22 it is now called. We also deliver implementations, upgrades, development and integration. One of the most important things these days is we can teach your team how to use the orchestrator for themselves. So just getting on with today's session. Your presenters for today, we have the lovely Kalpesh Shah and the more lovely Thiele. Kalpesh is Oracle's JD Edwards guru, and he's going to be explaining the more general benefits of JD Edwards Release 22 for real estate management users. He'll be showcasing the Workflow Studio, giving a short demonstration of the new property location map, and explaining financial close and revenue recognition. Anne is Endevr's JD Edwards functional guru, and she is well-regarded trainer of trainers. Anne's going to be showing you how you can optimize real estate management processes with the orchestrator, such as billing, escalations, expense participation, and other exciting things like that. Kalpesh has then got a little bit of information for you about running JD Edwards on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And then I'll take over for the Q&A session at the end. Now, what you might notice throughout this presentation, particularly in the middle and right at the end, is there are QR codes. So they're obviously not for checking in. They'll take you directly to any relevant links being discussed. So you just hold your phone up and use your camera and it'll just let you through. So now that the Christmas holidays are well and truly over, in distant memory, I'm going to pass things over to Kalpesh to get things started.
Thank you, Shasha. Good afternoon, everyone. So today I'm going to present and showcase some of the new upgrades in terms of what JD Edwards has been doing, what Oracle has been investing, and some exciting features have come in, not only for a property management company, but also companies managing joint ventures, companies managing manufacturing orders, ability to see things in a better perspective, which should be exciting for you to move to the next 9.2.6. Sorry, it's called Release 22 now. So why do we call it Release 22? We want to align ourselves with, and this was just a joke which Jeff Erickson made, like we want to align ourselves to a car manufacturers. They always have a model which is more resonating to a release, a car release to a rear. So that's what we're trying to do. So we're moving away from the standard 9.2.4.5.6. We're moving into a more professional way of saying it as a Release 22. And what we're trying to do over here is we continuously investing. We have improvised many things on the orchestrator side. We've introduced workflow studios, enabling you to create workflows on the glass rather than customizing those standard workflows that we were used to in the past. Also, it's more, we've also created logic extensions. So if you happen to see on the new workflow studio, or if you happen to see it in the orchestrator studio, you would see an icon over there as well. Plus, we have a 10-year roadmap. So that's still a strong forecast that we say, and that's our 10-year rolling moving forward. So we continuously are looking into that, and definitely I'm hopeful that the next year again we would add another year, making it 2033. The key focus behind Oracle's investment in JD Edwards have been on three different things: optimize applications. And when I say optimize application, it enables you not only to connect applications or do anything on the glass, but also connect it via mobile phones. Also enable you to do things which are easier for you. For example, resource allocations or your work or your staff utilization. So you can check your staff utilization like an Outlook calendar and move around using like you move around on an Outlook calendar. So you're moving dates, you're moving your employees from one branch plan to another. So you're doing your capacity utilization in terms of doing that. We continuously move forward in making sure that we provide you a low code or a no code environment, thereby making sure that the integrations are done in a more robust way, in a more configurable way, and there is less customization. Lastly, we want to improve the overall user experience and also automate systems using the one-click provisioning, and which is what I'm going to touch upon a little bit in my OCI presentation. Some of the key intuitive applications that we have introduced in the latest release is, and something which would be exciting for most of the team members who have participated over here, is the property map. This helps you to check on the properties from a mapping perspective in terms of where your property is located, and also get a few details as I move to the next slide and showing you all those different things. It enables you to check on properties, check the utilization, and also check where it is located, what are the points, what are the different areas it covers. The other important item that we have introduced over here is itemware use. So where you can get a graphical presentation of your work orders, making sure that what all items are required, or I would say what all raw materials are required to get that ultimate finished good. A couple of things that else, which is the staff utilization, as I mentioned, enabling you to do little bit things in terms of checking on utilization on your employees. And also the last one is the joint venture hierarchy, where you can connect multiple different companies which are a part of a joint venture uh, system and get them into some sort of a rolling from a top-down approach, so that you can do on multiple different entities. I'm sure companies which manage funds, which manage entities, either in real estate sector or in oil sector or in other industries, definitely would be interested in doing these things, which is available now.
Introducing the new and improved Property Map user interface. Hi, does your company use the JD Edwards Property Map? You could benefit from a highly interactive and responsive graphical interface that significantly simplifies the appearance of the information to manage properties more efficiently. The new and improved JD Edwards Property Map is the perfect entry point for property managers to manage their property portfolio. William is a property manager at Valley Associates, where he is responsible for managing several properties. William's company is facing challenges brought on by COVID-19 with reduced demand for space and an increase in demand for services to support clean buildings. These demands have highlighted the need to have quick access to accurate information that leads to better decisions to support his tenants and investors. William's goal is to attract investors and tenants to maintain a competitive edge. Earlier, William always found it laborious to manually enter the specific property information one after the other to see the properties that he managed for his clients. This method caused errors and made the entire process of viewing the property information less efficient. With the new and improved JD Edwards Property Map, he can quickly access key property information such as rentable and usable space by simply navigating an intuitive map interface. Once William selects a property on the map, the new feature allows him to view the top 5 tenants of that property. Using this feature, William easily gains insight into the status of properties within his portfolio, manages them more efficiently, and streamlines his interactions with tenants, managers, lenders, and owners. Form and row exits are available for easy access to common tasks to initiate actions related to the properties. William gains real time visibility across his portfolio, helping him promote operational efficiencies and higher return on investment, and make business decisions at the speed of thought. Implementation of this application? Easy. All you need to do is download the relevant ESU and start using the application. No need for an additional server or other technology components. To learn more about the Property Map application, visit learnjde.com. Thanks for watching.
So I'm sure this would be an exciting new feature which everyone would like to explore at their end. And if you need any further information or any support, I'm there to help you out. So reach out to us, reach out to Ndevr, and we can definitely help you out on this. Again, this is something which has been much awaited, especially when there is enough approvals required in multiple different activities, be it creating a new tenant or making the tenant more billable or doing anything that is related to JD real estate. So something which was long awaited. Personally, I had a lot of RFIs where customers were requesting for approvals and workflows, and that would ultimately was a customization at times. Even we had the workflow as a tool available, but that needs to still configure or customize to their needs in terms of how they want the approval process to flow. Given that, with the new release 22, I think this is one of the exciting ones, and I'm sure this would be something which would be a big game changer as well.
Process automation is a hallmark of intelligent ERP systems, and when humans need to be involved in the process, we call that workflow. JD Edwards Enterprise One includes a built-in workflow engine with tools to create, manage, and monitor workflow processes. Many pre-built workflows are also included with the product. Using the latest technologies and design patterns, JD Edwards is now embarking on the next generation of workflow tools, beginning with the new Workflow Studio. With the next generation Workflow Studio, you can now easily update and manage your workflows from a modern browser-based user interface. This enhancement empowers a wider range of users to design workflows easily regardless of their technical skills. The modern user interface of the Workflow Studio helps you to streamline and automate complex business processes. The intuitive drag and drop interface enables users, even those without programming or development skills, to easily create effective workflows. The Workflow Studio makes it easy for you to access your workflows and add and configure tasks. As it is backward compatible, it enables you to read and modify your existing workflows. What's more, you can also easily validate, activate, and deactivate your workflow processes right from the new Workflow Studio. This capability enhances the workflow development process and ultimately makes your business processes more efficient. For more information on JD Edwards Enterprise One workflow process, access the Workflow Tools Guide from Oracle Help Center. Thanks for watching.
Now let's look at some of the quick ones where JD Edwards investment has been helpful in terms of making the digital tools useful for business processes. And one of the key ones which I know everyone would be interested is the financial close. For companies, large, big, massive, the financial close for a month end or a year end is definitely a task by itself. It might be even 7 days before the month end starts, and it might roll 10 days after the month end has been done. So physically, you're actually doing a month end or a year end activity for almost 2 weeks. With the new tools where you can align as per this particular diagram, you can definitely align certain things as depicted and complete the year end activity in a much smarter, in a seamless fashion, and also less time. And that too, getting notified for all your inaccurate in any inconsistencies, be it on integrity reports or be it on batches not getting closed, or there needs some special attention for certain things which are hindering your month end or year end activities, I'm sure having this type of a process would definitely streamline and help you get more time back in focusing on other key activities and making sure the system runs for itself, getting the month end or a year end done more smoothly. As I said in my earlier start, that we are working towards more of a configuration than to a customization, and this is where in the new tools or also in previous tools as well, under the user ID, under where you see a user ID, you would definitely see a drop down which says record a process. Now that record a process is helps you to record a simple process. For example, it could be capturing how to create a purchase order. So you're capturing a purchase order creation. Behind the scenes, it actually is creating that process for you using the Orchestrator Studio. So once you go back to that form request in the Orchestrator Studio, you can open it up, you can make changes, you can see how you have ran through the process. If you want to make some changes, yes, you are happy to do that. And then freeze that process for a repeated process in terms of making sure that the process can run n number of times whenever you want to, and then you can deploy that process, launch it when you want it, and then reduce your human interaction, making sure that you only need to interact when you need to, and then in case there is an issue, you troubleshoot. So that way you can automate any processes using these simple steps, thereby not only automating, but also transforming in terms of where, again, give that time back to your business, making sure the system does what it needs to do. We have a small QR code on the right. I would I would request you, if you want to have a read through to that document, you can definitely put yourself over there and get some more information. From a customer's perspective, yes, we do have a couple of customers which have been happy to share their references with us. And one of them is Boston Properties, where they have been keen and they've been using JD Edwards Real Estate, and they are upgrading now to the latest tools. They are on 9.2, but they're moving to the latest tools. And they have been using JD Edwards for quite a bit of time. And the key factors that help them out is, of course, having a better cash flow. So having an improved cash flow in terms of where the revenue is coming from, where their expenses are, and making sure that they have enough cash on a quarter to quarter basis was the key driver for them to move to the latest tools. And also, of course, using some of the latest tools, they were able to reduce so the timelines in terms of what they were doing on every quarter end as well. So thank you to them, and also a good reference point for others to take this case forward. Edens. Now, this was a property company which had a very large portfolio. They had a very big portfolio in terms of where what they were using, and of course, as you see, they not only had financial consolidation or real estate, but they also had many other things like the project foundation. So they were running behind in terms of how their projects were running. So that was something which they had lost complete visibility. With 9.2 and with the latest tools, now they are going on the latest tools with our discussions. Yes, they are seeing a lot of things moving very streamlined in terms of streamlining their processes, streamlining their jobs, streamlining all the tenancy related activities, and this helps them to control them in a smarter way. And the benefits is right in front of you. Support. Well, there are two ways where you can get more support. One is, of course, Ndevr, our well-trusted partner, and also Oracle Premier Support. With Oracle Premier Support, with 9.2, it's a proactive support. If you have an idea in mind, call the support. Don't just wait for a postmortem for something that has broken and you need to talk. Yes, you can, but if you have an idea in mind in terms of how you can use certain things to help you further implement that idea, the support team is always ready to help you out. With that, I hand it over to Anne for the next part of the presentation. Thank you.
Oh, thanks very much, Kalpesh. Let me take control now. Right. So, for those of you that already use JD Edwards Real Estate Management System, you will already be aware that it provides a comprehensive real estate management and lease management functionality. You can streamline your financials, processes, and you can effectively manage the whole real estate life cycle here, from automated billing to, hang on, I've got a pointer here. Let me use my pointer. Haha, there we go. To straight line rent generation, to processing late fees. And please excuse the noise behind me. It's thunder and lightning. It's really storming out there at the moment. I hope my electricity stays on. So to processing late fees, to managing critical data alerts. So you can get alerts, for example, on when leases are due for renewal or certificates of currency, and you can get those automatically. Of course. You can also manage your expense participation through JD Edwards Real Estate Management. So, for example, your cleaning, your security, your utilities, all those shared expenses that you need to manage and to charge on to tenants, etc. Through JD Edwards Real Estate Management, you can also handle your increases, escalations they're called within JD Edwards, and that could be fixed amount increases, it could be fixed percentage increases, or it could be increases that are tied to an index like the CPI index, or it could be a combination of all of them. And you can manage them all through JD Edwards Real Estate Management. You can also manage your sales averages or your turnover rent through JD Edwards Real Estate Management. Now, in Release 9.1 and even more in 9.2, you can comply with the IFRS 16 lessee accounting standard. You can create leases for property and non-property assets, and you create them obviously as the lessee, and you use the real estate management system to create the necessary amortization schedules and the journal entries that go with it so that you can account for those leased assets on the balance sheet. Those of you that are already JD Edwards users will know that most of the modules include staging tables already. So in the general accounting, accounts receivable, accounts payable, they've all got staging tables where you can upload transactions and interface transactions into JD Edwards through the staging tables. Those of you that use real estate will also know that up until now, the real estate management didn't have any staging tables. Well, with the introduction of lessee accounting, Oracle provided some of those staging tables for us. So they've provided for us staging tables to load lease information. They've provided units and area information can be loaded via the staging tables. For me, the exciting bits are the manual billing transactions. So if you get your electricity, for example, some people get the electricity breakdown per tenant is delivered in the form of a spreadsheet. You can now load that into the manual billing via the staging tables that are now provided. And also recurring billing transactions. If you want to load additional recurring billing transactions, they can also be loaded via these staging tables. So it allows you can now load all of this information via the staging tables, and you can load them using an orchestration that can pick up a file from our external and load it into the staging table, and then of course trigger off the processing of that staging table into the actual tables. Or you can simply copy and paste. All of them have a copy and paste facility as well. And for those areas that don't yet have staging tables, you can use the orchestrator to facilitate bulk uploads. Escalations, expense participation, sales overage. These are areas that don't have staging tables. Because why? Because they were not they're not affected. The lease accounting didn't need this information, so they only have so far provided what was needed for lessee accounting, but it's a good start. This is something I'm particularly excited about, the joint venture, little joint venture submodule. It was delivered in 9.2, and it is a submodule of the financials. It comes as part of your financials, so there's no extra license fee involved. If you need joint venture processing, you simply download the ESU and away you go. With each release since 9.2, there have been major enhancements to this module, so that now it's like the complete package, from defining the division of interest through to distributing your revenue and your expenses, through to managing your overheads, through to invoicing the expenses and payment of the revenues. It's all there. It's all in this new joint venture manual, joint venture submodule. Now, as Kalpesh already mentioned, Oracle have delivered many tools enhancements over the past little while. He mentioned, obviously, and I've also mentioned the orchestrator, the robotic, JD Edwards robotic process automation tool. There's also been major enhancements to the personalization of forms. So form personalization, where you can move fields around on your forms, and you can remove fields that you don't want, and so that you get exactly what your application needs for that particular form. There's also more personalization of the grids, so that you can also format those the way that you want, and you can change names of things on the form, on the grid, so that it's named the way that your organization expects it to be named. For example, Oracle JD Edwards calls it sales overage. A lot of people in Australia, in fact, I think most people call it turnover rent. So you can change the name of those fields on the forms as you work through them. You also have form extensions, which is very exciting, because what you can do now is you can add those fields that you are already using onto your form without needing a developer. So let's say, for example, a lot of you that use JD Edwards already will be using the user fields on in a lot of the tables. There's a series of user fields that you use. Now, we know that they don't normally appear on the forms. So if we needed to display a user field on the form, we would have to maybe write a spec, send it off to a developer. That developer might or might not have time this week, so it might be a couple of weeks before he gets to modifying the program. Then he has to deploy it and make package builds and get it ready in PY so that we can test it. And then we test it, and then we say, yep, we're happy with it, and he has to go back to the developer, to CNC, and eventually they promote it through to production. Now, that process can take weeks, it can even take months, depending on how busy the developers are. We can now add those fields on the glass. So we could actually have it up and running in PY, for example, depending on your promotion flow and so on, and your internal rules. You can have it up and running in PY literally in minutes. And maybe even if you've got some promotion rules and so on, it can be a day or two before it's in production. So it's a big improvement on the turnaround time for these things as well. Plus, they are not in fact customization. So when you upgrade, this automatically upgrades with it. There's no retrofitting needed either for this sort of thing. Oracle is making more and more improvements in these areas. But this whole lot together, and this is what I'm actually getting to after talking for so long, this whole lot together, all these enhancements, Oracle labels under citizen developer tools. because for the most part, you can customize the look and feel and the workings of JDE with minimal technical requirements. Now, I'd like to show you some of the ideas or potentially what we can do using the system development tools to streamline the real estate management processes. So we all know that in property management, billing is critical. It's also time critical, and it can also be time consuming. So the orchestrator or the robotic process automation tool, we can streamline the process by automatically running the billing in proof mode, maybe at the same time each month, at the same time each week, each quarter, or whatever your billing frequency is, okay? And we can then automatically email the result of that proof billing to the lease or the billing administrator, for example. They can then review it. So we've got the output, the PDF output here. So they can review it and say, yes, I'm very happy with it. And if they're happy with it, we can include a link in the email, which simply they click on the link and it automatically fires off the final billing process for them. So it can we can easily streamline that process just to make it that little bit more efficient for your billing team. Now, I've only included one single link in here for demonstration purposes, but you could just as easily add more links. Maybe you want to include rerunning the proof billing, or a link from here to the recurring billing, so that you can update the recurring billing for that property when you see that something is wrong in the proof mode. Another area that you might want to streamline is escalations or the billing increases. So they could be scheduled to run on a periodic basis, perhaps based on lease terms or anything else on the lease that can trigger the escalation process. Otherwise, they could actually be triggered manually from an E1 page or from within one of the applications, if you like. Using the orchestrator, you can also automatically send out increase notices to your tenants once the billing increases have been completed. Now, the nice thing about the orchestrator is because the parameters can be sent from the orchestration through to the message that is coming through to that is being sent out, or that you've chosen to send out, should I say, okay, through the message, and then they can be sent on to the other processes that follow on. There's no retyping of information. There's no rekeying of stuff, and so the possibility of mistakes is also reduced. Also improving the what's the word? The productivity? No, that's not the word I'm looking for. Can't remember what the word is I'm looking for. Improving the efficiency of the processes. Another area you might look at streamlining is the turnover rent. The turnover can be sent in by the tenant, maybe in a CSV form or any other format, and it can be automatically processed. You could possibly have the turnover rent the process sitting in the automator. So orchestrator comes with an automator or a scheduler. So you could schedule it to run and check for turnover rent every now and then and pick it up and process it. And if you're really confident, you can let it calculate, let it process the turnover, let it calculate the turnover rent, let it produce the invoice, and it can all be automatically triggered without any intervention. I would imagine that most people are not quite that confident, so you'd want to stop after the turnover has been processed and let somebody review that the turnover that's processed, and after that trigger, again, possibly from an email, trigger the turnover rent process itself. These are just some ideas of areas that we can streamline using the orchestrator and also some of the other citizen developer tools within. But there are many other areas that can be automated or streamlined. For example, the take on of new properties, adding the leases, including the recurring billing information, escalation information, and all the other lease and tenant information needed when you add a new property to your portfolio. That can be automated through here. Expense participation processes could be streamlined. You could automatically send out reminders when they need it. For example, reminders for certificates of currency, reminders that the leases, you might send reminders to the property manager to say these leases are about to expire, that he needs to do something about them. All those sort of things can also be automated and streamlined through the orchestrator. Well, I'm sure, well, at least I hope that already your minds are working overtime thinking of all the possibilities in this area of streamlining and automating your JD Edwards. And yeah, well, welcome to chat to me anytime, or to any of us anytime if you've got any ideas, and we can certainly help you put them into action as well. Now, Oracle is delivering additional functionality all the time with every new release of JD Edwards. And this doesn't only mean that you stay on top of legal requirements like IFRS 16, for example, but it also stays on top of the changing business needs and, of course, of best practice. Well, that's all I have to say. Back to you, Kalpesh.
Let me take control. Thank you, Anne, for that. That was really exciting. Let's move to the next one, and I won't take much time. It's something which everyone in their current organization is either moving to as a plan to move to OCI, or definitely would be looking for a good business case, or if they are on OCI. Thank you very much. So again, JD Edwards is a certified product with 9.2, enabling 140 odd customers. The number is still growing. This was a last year's figure, but then we have seen recently as well where customers are seeing a lot of confidence in terms of moving on to OCI. Of course, it's not only just reducing their capex, but also making sure that they get the latest in terms of what they can do in terms of reducing their cost from an overall perspective, freeing up some of the resources, making sure the resources are used somewhere else in a more productive manner. Also reducing any risk in terms of getting any threats onto the software or the hardware, protecting against any obsolescence from not only from a technology perspective, but also they need to check whether the licenses are up to date, whether they need to renew and all that different things. So, and lastly, of course, it helps you to spin up environments whenever you need, maybe for a training purpose, or also if you want to just use it for some testing purpose, which is more critical, and you don't want to use up some of your current testing environments, making sure that you have an environment and you're paying only for that usage than when you're using it. Of course, from comparison perspective, yes, Oracle definitely has an upper hand across the rest of the cloud providers. That's beyond doubt. And of course, we've been doing heaps of different activities, making sure that we not only remain but also hear from our customers in terms of where we can improvise and making sure that the infrastructure is a world-class one. Coming back to rewards, yes, there are a few things that should excite you in terms of where you should be looking at OCI. Of course, with spending on OCI, spending on cloud usage, you can use 25 cents, 25% of that, depending on what license matrix you have, and that can be used to offset some of your support bill on the technology side. So in case you're using Oracle Tech Foundation or JD Core tools and technology or certain other technical tools, the support amount of that can be used to offset, can be used using this particular 25 cent or 25% amount that comes out. So talk to us. We'll definitely help you out in terms of where you can improvise your financial bill. If you are on a revenue matrix where you're on an enterprise matrix, yes, for that, the amount is a little bit higher. So it's 33% in terms of consumption that you would be able to offset against the technical products. With that, I will hand it over to Shasha. I hope everyone would have enjoyed. And if there are any questions, we're definitely there to help you out. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalpesh and Anne. I was muted. So the chat function is open in case there's any questions that anyone's been saving up to the end. Appreciate it if you send them through now. While we give it a couple of minutes though, I'm just going to explain the QR codes that are on your screen at the moment. So the very first one, this is to Ndev's YouTube channel. This particular link will take you directly to a series of JD Edwards demos that we've either curated or delivered. You can also get to it by typing tiny.1/JDE demos. Another useful place for JD Edwards resources is on Ndev's website. Going through the main menu, you can access the resources option, and from there you can just filter everything by topic. For example, JD Edwards. This webinar, for example, will be accessible there within a few days. In the middle there, we have got the QR code for learnjde.com. This is obviously Oracle's site, which is full of useful JD Edwards information. Funny that, being the vendor. These links, along with a direct link to the recording, will be emailed to you in the follow-up for this event. The other thing I'll do is I'll also include links for you to the 2 videos that Kalpesh showed. Now, in terms of questions, so the first one that I've got here, it's do you need to have the real estate management module to use lessee accounting? Anne, can I get you to answer that one, please?
Sure. No, you don't. Real estate lessee accounting is actually licensed under the financials. So if you've got financials, you can use the lessee accounting automatically. It comes free and gratis with the financials. It does use some of the real estate management functions, but it's not licensed under them. You don't need to have real estate in order to do it.
Okay. Another question I've got here is, can Orchestrator be used to cross-validate information? So what they mean is to check that certain information is entered before making a lease active.
Oh, sure. Yes, you can. So you can trigger an orchestration from within an application. So, for example, you could trigger the orchestration when somebody moves off when the user moves off a certain field, and you can then pick up that you can pass that field through to the orchestration, do some validation, and return. If there's a problem with it, say validate. For example, they might change the lease status to active when all the information hasn't been loaded, and you can definitely do that via the orchestrator to check that and validate that. Yes.
Okay. Kalpesh, I'm going to get you to answer a couple here. So how do I get the new joint venture management module? People like joint ventures, it seems.
With the new joint venture module, it's a part of the JD Financial Suite. So if you have the latest financials with 9.2, you should be able to access the joint venture module without having any additional load of licenses. So you're free to use that module. And as you are as a customer paying support, you would definitely get upgrades and updates on that module as well as we improvise. So you should be able to use that because it's a part of the standard financial suite, which contains the general ledger module, the accounts receivable module, the fixed asset, and so on.
Okay.
And if I understand correctly, Kalpesh, just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that, let's say you're on 9.2 and you haven't yet upgraded further, you're still going to update your JDE further, you can just load the the joint venture module via an ESU, can you?
You can definitely, but then again, you'll have to look into if there are any technical requirements or some dependencies that you would need to take care of. So yes, you can definitely.
Okay. I'm going to put this one out there. Are there any restrictions on the number of joint ventures you can set up?
No, you can set up as many joint ventures as you have, depending, because with companies and of course in real estate, we have seen companies managing a lot of properties which are cross-funded with different fund managers, or again, there's a lot of investment when particularly in the oil and gas industry as well, where it's not single person or single company owning a particular well, it's always a joint venture. So yes, as the number of joint ventures there are, you can have that many linkages in using that module.
Okay. If any other questions come through from here, what I'll do is include them in the follow-up to this and any answers as well. But that's actually all we've got time for today. I'd like to say a big thank you to Kalpesh and Anne for sharing with us today. And of course, I'd like to thank everyone who's joined us as well, taking the time to tune in. So on behalf of Oracle and the team at Ndevr, thank you and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you,
Thanks.
Anne.